Hey Mike, my man, how are you doing today?
Very well, thanks. How you doing?
I'm doing quite fine. It's so nice to have you on the show. Thank you so very much for being here. You see, I truly appreciate it. And you see, Mike, oftentimes I love to thank my guests for two things. And I do this so often because I feel like it's important. So firstly, I want to say thank you so very much, Mike, for investing in yourself. You see, you are on this platform right now because you invested in yourself. And oftentimes, my man, I love to make reference to the amazing mango tree. Mm. You see, some months back, I was on a particular road, and just by the roadside, there was this tall, unattractive mango tree. And I use the word unattractive because the mango tree's got no mangoes on it. The leaves were all dry. So I just walked past it and I went my way. But you see, Mike, just recently I was on that same road. And this time around, a lot's changed about the mango tree. You see, the mango tree caught my attention pretty good from a distance. And immediately, I got the urge to move so close to it, of which I did. And it wowed me. Because now the mango tree's got a lot of mangoes on it. Beautiful green leaves and healthy branches. It was a beautiful moment that day. I was so excited. Here is my point. The fact that you dedicated your time, energy, and resources to becoming the amazing Mike that you are today, that alone has made it really impossible for me to say nope to you. And you see, getting to read about you, oh boy, the stuffs I was seeing, the impact your work is having, your philosophies and your insight in your journey, it's amazing. And I just couldn't wait for this conversation to happen. And here we are today with the amazing Mike. Thank you so very much for investing in yourself, and thank you so very much for being here. Truly appreciate it, my man. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. And what a beautiful introduction and story. I appreciate that. And yeah, I don't think I've ever had a nicer introduction. So tons of gratitude. It's such an honor to be here. I appreciate the invite.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you too. So let's get started. You see, I'm quite excited to have you on the show today for two reasons. Firstly, my interest in knowledge seeking. I believe in order for one to transition from a terrible situation to that of a beautiful one, Mike, I believe it takes the application of knowledge, quality information, and not just knowledge now, but the application of it. And you see, Mike,
Hmm.
ever since I discovered that light in the Hebrew means knowledge and darkness means ignorance, I've been so keen to knowledge
Hmm.
seeking because I do not want to remain in the dark. So that's going to make our conversation today very, very important to me and even to the listeners. Excuse me. The second reason why I'm excited to have the amazing Mike on the show is for the sake of the audience. You see, Mike, we live in an age where information is as abundant as grains of sand. We've got lots of information flying out there. So these folks trust me for quality, eye-opening, and very important information, of which I am totally convinced that our conversation is going to be insightful and impactful. So for that reason, Mike, my man, let's get started with your introduction. Talk to us about your personal or professional journey, because right now we are so curious. We want to know how Mike got here. Then afterwards, I've gotten some beautiful questions for you. Okay, Mike, over to you.
Okay, thank you, brother. And I want to first acknowledge what you said about the light in the dark. And I think it's so impactful and a big part of my journey, frankly. I'll wind back to a few years ago. And how I got here is truly that I was a stereotypical man that worked hard. That I went from an athletic background into a sales career, constantly chasing all the shiny things that we're told to chase, right? And that's adventure and money, and eventually a house. And I had the family, and eventually I stood there and I asked myself, what am I doing this all for? Why? And is this my dream I'm building or somebody else's? Because it still felt empty when I got there. And so that's truly when I started to look inwards, right? And look also who's around me. And I still didn't slow down. I found some answers, some amazing modalities like breathwork and meditation, asking myself bigger questions and not being afraid of the answers. And as I went through this process, eventually I also got diagnosed with Lyme disease, and Lyme disease was a part of my journey for a little while. And that's truly where, I went from finding all these amazing things, feeling in the peak of my physical and my mental journey, to being taken down to the depths of, darkness, and eventually having to sit there and say, am I going to allow this to continue to bring me down, or am I going to find that light? And how do I find it? Because no doctors could help me or anything. And so in with those inner questions and dialogue and meditations, what came through to me was that I am my healer. I am the only one that can help me. And so when I went through this process, it's the light that came to me and the answers that came to me is, how could I find all these incredible things that help me feel amazing and help me find purpose and connection with the world around me, and not bring it back, not bring it to the masses and not bring it to everybody else. And that's when, I knew I had to find other men that had the same questions. And that's when it started to unfold. And I wouldn't be here today without that amazing darkness, and now living a life of light and sharing information. So what a beautiful analogy you started that off with, because it's been a big part of my journey for sure.
Amazing. You see, you use some of my favorite words, help and purpose. That's a great one. In the part where you mentioned that no one is coming to help you, you discover that you are your own healer. I got that. And that's a very profound statement, because we cannot help others until we help ourselves. And we
Mm.
cannot become who we are meant to become until we discover that we have the power to become it. I got that. That's a beautiful one. Okay, so let's begin first with some of the lessons that you've learned, all right, from experiencing both corporate success and personal struggle. Can you share some with us?
Yeah, I'll say, listen, the overarching theme in my journey is to slow down. Is, my whole life, if I look back to when I was born into this world, I had signs to slow down. I was a wild man, and I loved going fast. And that carried on, into my high school years, my university years afterwards, and looking for that next thing and chasing and never slowing down enough to truly realize what I already had, what was within me, what was around me, and where we can truly tap into our inner gifts, and where we can find clarity in our business, in our relationship challenges, as a father. All of this, all these answers came to me when I finally, was pulled down ultimately by Lyme disease, because I wouldn't listen, and the universe finally said, no, no, you are someone that needs to listen, and we're going to teach you this. And so I think a big lesson for me is that, everybody should incorporate that slowdown in their life, because even if, if we're a CEO of a company, or if we're a single dad or a single mom, it doesn't matter. When, we're in chaos, life is very full. Life is going to bring it to us and throw it at us. So as you said, when we serve us first, then we can serve others. So whether that's as a parent or a leader, we need to find the moments to slow down and to tap into our inner guidance, because that's where true clarity comes from, and our answers when we're stuck.
Found, I got that. So, how has being an elite athlete shaped your coaching journey? Got it?
Great question. Really that one's about drive and constantly being ready, because I'll tell you, I have a story as an athlete in my athletic career where I was in sales and in software, and I quit everything I quit a lucrative career to go become an athlete, because I knew I could travel the world and it would be exciting. I co-founded the Canadian team called Team Can Fly. And we all applied for this world competition in Dubai. And when I got my qualification video back, it was declined. So as the leader of the team, I didn't make it. So in that evening, I had a moment of defeat. I remember crying in a bath, saying to my wife, I don't know what to do. We've planned a training trip to Texas. We're supposed to go to Dubai in December, and on and on. And I had to make a decision. And in that moment, I decided that I was going to go on the road with my team, and I was going to train. anyways, because I was a leader of the team and I had to be an influence. And so I did that, and I committed to it just as much as they did, as if I had been accepted. 2 weeks before this world competition, somebody dropped out. I was the next in line. I got accepted. I got to Dubai, and I qualified in my first run in second. And unfortunately, my second, I got knocked out to 16th, but I qualified in second. Now, why I bring this story up in the lesson, how this goes into, my coaching career, is that I believe it's important as anybody, that we train constantly for life. Because if I hadn't trained for that and I wasn't ready, I would not have stood a chance. Right. But we need to believe that our next opportunity is always right around the corner. And we need to be ready that if we're called up to do so, we're our best versions of ourselves, and we're ready and willing to step into that at any given moment. And so that's really one of the biggest crossovers between my athletic journey and now my coaching and leadership journey is training people for life, so that when the challenges come at us, we can be grounded, we can be centered, we're ready, because the challenges are inevitable, right? It's not just all about the wins, it's how we handle the setbacks. But then on the offense, on the wins, it's the drive, it's the constant, to keep moving forward. The most powerful thing we can do is keep moving forward when we don't feel like showing up. Right? That's truly how we define our character, and we give ourselves confidence. Confidence is defined by intense trust with self. When we constantly show up for ourselves, that's when we teach ourselves we can do big things.
Amazing. Now I see why you're just so good at what you do. And thank you so very much for sharing that stories. I would love to share it with others too.
Really.
Amazing. I love that. I love that. So you mentioned battling with I don't know how you pronounce it, the Lyme disease. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
how did that lead to your spiritual awakening? Can you share that with us?
Yeah. So that, I went the traditional route at first, and I went to doctors, and unfortunately no antibiotics could help me. It was just tearing my body apart, and I was getting very, very thin and crying through the night, and I was sore as anything. And so again, I had to lean in and figure it out. I started doing Joe Dispenza meditations, trying to heal my own body every single day. And then I found a shaman in Vancouver. A friend of mine said, "Have you heard that Kambo treatment can actually heal Lyme?" And I said, "No, I had no idea." So I called up this shaman, and she was a very well-known one. She's worked with Tony Robbins and others, and she was booked out for like the year. But when I chatted with her, she said, "I can tell you need me." And she called one of her regulars, and she got me a spot in like 10 days. And I had to drive, I remember, through one of the worst snowstorms down the Coca-Cola Highway. It's called the Highway to Hell, actually, in the wintertime. And in the frailest state I'd ever been in my life to get to her. And I spent 3 days with her doing this, what's called Kambo treatment, which is they take the secretion from an Amazonian frog and they burn it into you. So it's essentially poison that immediately goes into your bloodstream, and your body fights it, right? So the effect I was going for is for it to boost my immune system in to fight against Lyme. It's not a psychedelic. It's more of a purge when you go into it. However, on my second day, I had what I can only explain as a spiritual unlock. It felt like in my lower left side, literally a key turning and clicking. And in that moment, it was like information came to me and said, "You are your own healer. The breath will heal you. Sitting in silence will heal you. And it is your duty to bring it to other people." And so that's really when my spiritual journey truly began. I've always believed in something greater than myself, just not knowing what it is. And now I've had the opportunity over the years to really connect with it a lot more, bring it to others. And this is why I love the connection between the entrepreneurial journey, the business journey, and the spiritual journey, because I truly believe they are so tightly connected on, what we feel is for us is what we're going to get, right? What we feel we're worthy of is what we're going to receive. right? We can't build this big life until we feel worthy of it, until we know that it's meant for us truly. And that's where we can constantly connect on a daily basis, whether it's healing, whether it's feeling stuck, whether it's working through something. We have all the answers. We just have to slow down enough and tap in to give space for them to arrive. So that's really where my spiritual journey truly began to deepen.
Got it. Okay, one last one. What are the best habit building techniques for lasting change?
Great one. And I love this question because I'm very, very passionate about habit building. Um, it's slow and steady, and it's simplifying it, right? As humans, we want to make everything so complex, and we want to reach for the stars, right? We think, okay, I want to start doing a morning routine. So I'm going to go from getting up at 7 to now I'm going to get up at 5 a.m. and I'm going to read. I'm going to do a cold shower. I'm going to do breathwork meditation. I'm going to journal 4 pages. Like we overcomplicate it, right? So building habits is really truly about simplifying, starting one thing and doing it slow and steady. If it's something like a morning routine, for instance, if and you're getting up at 7, take that to 6:30 at first. Simplify. Wake up and simply start with whether it's a prayer, a meditation, or reading 10 pages, whatever feels good for you to do first thing in the morning. That's going to make you feel better after that stint, whether it's the 15 minutes or 30 minutes. Start there, right? And the second thing is set yourself up for success the night before, if it's a morning routine, for instance. So if it's a book, have your book laid out. If you're trying to get to the gym, have your clothes laid out. You need triggers, and you need to take away any resistance points, right? Because if you take the gym example, for instance, somebody wakes up in the dark and they don't have their clothes laid out. They're like, oh, I don't want to wake up my partner. I'll just go back to sleep and try again tomorrow, right? Take away those little resistance points. You have your clothes laid out. You grab them in the dark. You get out the door. You get to the gym. So simplify it and take away any resistance points. Think of what future obstacles potentially are and remove them in advance. This is how we build effective habits.
Remove them in advance. I got that. So to bring this to an end, Mike, what would you like to leave the audience with, like a final thought? And to those folks who like to reach out to you, they felt inspired. Oh, Mike just spoke to me. I would love to learn more. How can that be possible?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, a big one for me is happiness every day. And people think happiness has to arrive. Happiness is a choice. We get to choose every day. And it's not going to be easy, but working at it every day is what gets us there. And so I have a simple technique that I thought of a couple of years ago, and I use with my clients that works. And it's again simple, not easy. Easy is implementing it every day, but it's called the Smile Project. And so I encourage anybody to do this. The last thing you do before you go to bed is force a smile on your face. And the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning before you even open your eyes is you smile. Our brain releases the chemicals of happiness when we smile. It doesn't know the difference between if we're forcing it or it's genuine. And so therefore it's going to get us in that state. And then we lead into the state of gratitude, and then we start to search for gratitude throughout our day. So it's a ripple effect. So choose happiness every day and smile. That's the simplest piece of advice I can give that everybody has access to. And I'll say, I so appreciate the time. And yeah, if ever any questions, any support needed, anything like that, I'm an open door. I'm most active on social media, on Instagram, and it's The Conscious Creator Coach. Or my website is just Conscious Creator World, or .world, excuse me. And
Oh, okay.
I try to bring as much as I can every day.
Beautiful. I love that. I love that. So that's going to be the end of the show, Mike. Thank you for coming and thank you for sharing this awesome stuff with us. Means a whole lot. Thank you, my man.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate the time and space. Pleasure.